very much. I want to go see it. I just want to go visit them. I just want to go see them. That's what I want. I just want to go talk. Just want to go talk. I think he wanted to shout at them. Not that it affected his race in the slightest, but it was a bizarre penalty to give out. I've seen some people saying, look, it's because he was nowhere near and you have to be at least halfway alongside the car ahead if you're going to try and make a move, especially around the outside. And I get that, but I also don't think Carlos was at fault, particularly for the collision. I felt like it was very much a racing incident where both of them perhaps just converged. So, yeah, I still absolutely stand on the 10-second penalty being complete and utter rubbish for Carlos Sainz. And I am glad. I think I'm glad in some ways, because I also heard that the stewards refused to see him, which is wild, isn't it? Maybe just wanted an explanation. Just tell me, FIA, what did I do wrong? Honourable mentions.
Oh man, I don't not want it.
Perfectly comes after the last one. Carlos Sainz on his way to the stewards after the race. I just want to talk. Oh dear. Yeah, I find it wild that the stewards, because I think this was from Carlos himself saying that they didn't want to talk. It's just a bit mad, isn't it? Even if it's just from an educational piece. There wasn't an appeal. There can't be an appeal. It's very much just a, can I understand why? And apparently not. So that's great running of the sport, in my opinion. Sarcasm. Next up, Oscar but slower. I can't be the only one who sees the vision. It's a High School Musical reference. I enjoy it a lot. You know I enjoy it a lot if you've been watching what I do for a while now. Bit of Troy, bet on it. I'm a fan. And although, well, to be fair though, Troy actually was quite upset in that scene as well. I'm not going to get into the High School Musical lore. So it does kind of match up, although Charles did not break into song, and I wish he had now. I'm not gonna stop, not gonna stop till I get my shine. That's who I am, that's my plan. The Vortex 99, Yuki watching RB get a podium. We did get Yuki points, but we didn't get a Yuki podium. And yeah, I really do wonder, obviously away from the PR stuff and I'm really happy for blah, 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 and we're just trying to improve the car. I wonder what Yuki genuinely feels like at this current stage of his Red Bull promotion, because it must be a weird sort of set of emotions to process, because you're in the main team. You're in where you've been literally trying to prove yourself to get into this entire time. You get there and you look at the team you've just left that you probably wanted to leave to get promoted for quite some time, getting podium, well, not podium, just a podium, but then really good results as well and lots of points. It must be a really weird thing as a driver to see that. Noel Raj S, Yuki reacting to him being replaced by Hadjar. I don't know. I don't think this is going to happen. Just because Hadjar's had a podium, I think it stays as is. And then next year, Tommy's very concerned that Yuki might be gone fully. I'm not so sure, but at the same time, it's not looking particularly rosy for Yuki at the moment. Lars Kek W. Lur. FIA, just leave him alone, man. I know, right? I'm going to get into this very soon. Don't you worry. I'm popping off an entire segment about this very shortly, so look forward to that. It's controversial opinion time. Tom Bellingham is here, and he has submitted a juicy one. Tommy, are you excited to discuss this one?
Oh, let's dive into it.
Okay, so it comes in from ACO Mofile. Zach Brown doesn't care about an Oscar win. The floor is yours.
Oh, you're not going? All right, I'll go first. Look, I do not envy being a person on the pit wall at McLaren in a situation like what happened in that race, or any kind of team principal or person in Formula One now, because the amount of times I will see a clip on TikTok or something of someone's expression or a picture of someone as it cuts them on the pit wall, and you're trying to make this entire narrative over something that's happened. And I've seen it with Stella supposedly, laughing at Lando. He supposedly, doesn't like Lando, and Zach Brown supposedly loves Lando more than Oscar and doesn't want to celebrate the victory. I wouldn't want to be in McLaren's shoes, because you flip that around, because I assume this is the fact that it showed Zach Brown basically looking a bit somber or not really celebrating too much. Imagine if he'd been fist pumping, going, yeah, this is amazing. He's got 2 drivers in the World Championship. It's nothing. It's no discredit to Oscar. He just has to play it a bit cooler because one of his guys, through no fault of his own, has lost a big chunk of points and could affect his World Championship standings. So
I am
it's
so
not
bad at this.
as deep as people think it is, in my opinion.
No, I don't think it's as deep either. I've seen, the smirk of Andrea Stella. Oh my God, he's laughing at the fact Lando's out of the race. I think that's a big stretch, to be honest with you. And look, I'm not denying that I think Zach Brown definitely has a better relationship with Lando Norris. I think there's no denying that, because he plays golf with him, and Lando's been part of the team for a very long time. So I'm sure Zach does want to see Lando do well.
He can't really sneeze anymore.
It also exists that he's happy to see Oscar do well as another driver in his team, and that he doesn't therefore want, the absolute worst for Oscar Piastri. Like, as a human level, perhaps there is a small bit of bias from Zach to Lando, just because I'm sure he would love to see Lando as world champion. But that's not to say that he's then upset that Oscar is doing well.
No, boy.
I completely agree with you, Tommy. There is no.
Did it ever make it to this? I think it has.
Driver that just DNF'd. You can't be celebrating it in the same way. So I think that's what social media will do, right? They will pick a narrative that suits them and whatever what biases they have them to whatever driver. So I think that's what we're seeing. There you go. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you for the controversy. We'll see you very soon. Bye.
Holy
P5, Harvey Lim 864. Take a bow, Isaac Hadjar or Isak Hadjar? Isak Hadjar. I know that's the full absolute pronunciation of it. I love the picture that they've used of this. Obviously, we've seen the meme template a million times before, but that is a very, very young Hadjar right there. And I think we all, I don't know if you felt the same as I did, but when I was watching this, P4, I went, great result. It's going to be a really solid result for Isaac. And then as soon as he went into the podium, it felt like Hulkenberg all over again, where it didn't feel real. And we're sat here going, another non-top 14 getting a podium, and this time not in a crazy race. Yes, Lando DNF'd, but Hadjar had the pace the entire race to stay in fourth, and he was doing a miraculous job up until that point anyway. Right, this had to be included. Of course, it's away from the top 10. It's from Scudetto.
Wait, what the fuck?
Did this. Charles Leclerc's VIP seat. Now, I've looked it up. I don't think this is real. If it is, fair play. I mean, even the fact that it's an idea, I like it a lot as a meme, as if you're gonna laugh at it. But why is this a thing? How is it a thing? Charles was having such a good race. He was proper. That move on George Russell. Can we just reflect? By the way, I will say, I know we said about the Sainz penalty being absolute rubbish. Fair play to the stewards for actually realising that was some good wheel-to-wheel combat. Yes, there was a bit of touching, a bit of rubbing, and perhaps a wheel or two or four off the track. But they realised that that's the kind of racing we want to see, and also that it did still tick a box in the regulations that it was legal, because Charles was alongside enough to be warranted room. So I don't know how I've managed to turn that away from the VIP seat, but you know what I'm saying. Like, let's stick to the positives. P4, Elite Merchant, new week, same story. Check out this book I found. Yeah, we don't get to see all too much of that, and when we do, well, of course, Canada happened. But look, it's 34 points now, and if you listen to the sort of narrative that's going on, apparently now Lando is going to drive like a man unleashed. He's going to try and win every race, and although that's kind of what he was trying to do anyway, I don't feel like it will change much of the complexion of the title battle. Although, that being said, I'm processing it as I'm speaking. Lando might go for we've seen Oscar go for a couple of moves that were very close to being contact between his teammate. Lando is, I'd say, more measured in terms of when he goes for moves. So My laptop's taking off, by the way. If you can hear that, really sorry. It's overheating. Not going to make a joke about Lando's car being similar to that. But I think that genuinely the wheel-to-wheel battles will come, and perhaps Lando now will take more risks because of the fact he's behind a little bit more. P3, and in the Hadjar place on the podium is Lobo1. See, it doesn't even hurt anymore. Now this is third because this is such a good meme. This accurately depicts what a Formula One Ferrari fan is all about. We've experienced so much heartbreak, disappointment, potential. You know, that's why we have such falls, because we are so back. We'll be back, I'm sure, again this weekend for Monza, although Hamilton has a 5-place penalty. We'll talk about that as I say. But yeah, it's that there's no F1 fan that comes close, I don't think, to what Ferrari fans have had to endure since 2008. Since 2008. It's a long time. P2, since Shumi, so much rain this weekend. Broken promises everywhere, absolutely. Where did the rain go? Oh, the rain's hitting the track in 3 minutes. We're going to get 7 to 11 laps of Class 1 intensity rain. Might need the intermediates, but we don't know. How much bait? How much bait were those team radios? And what did we get? We even saw rain falling. Did it impact the race in the slightest? No. Well, we took Hamilton out because it was a bit slippery. And
One did.
yeah, but apart from that, the intermediates weren't even a...
Everyone is busy with level 100 controversy, but no one is talking about this problem. In the next patch, a new IT mode is coming, known as Lunar Mode, which gives you 200 primos. But to complete this mode, you need at least 28 characters, and all of them should be at least level 70, which I don't think everyone has. And if they decide to include Dendro and Geo at the same time, most players are cooked, since both elements only have 11 characters each, and many of them are irrelevant to the current meta. Can you complete it? Everyone is busy with level 100 controversy, but no one is talking about this problem. In the next patch, a new IT mode is coming, known as Lunar Mode, which gives you 2...
It says no swimming!
Do you always follow the rules?
Hi!
Optimizing the track, using everything that's there and a little bit more.
On a random lap 37.
Yeah.
Members of his family. Ooh, what's this button? What's he doing? Oh!
Yeah, I mean, I was P10 and then I just stayed on track and then I was P5. and that was my rate.
Yep, I've got lollies stuck in my teeth now, so but anyway. It's already the best press conference ever, we've got food, so.
Wow. Alright. See you later. Okay.
Valtteri, it's James. Please abort the fastest lap attempt for the end of the lap.
Right, so he's gone purple. Fastest first sector, fastest middle sector for Valtteri Bottas. He crosses the line. He did slow down. He did abort the fastest lap attempt. He still got the fastest lap, though.
Oh, no.
He was 0.8 of a second quicker.
Valtteri, it's James. Please abort the fastest lap attempt for the end of the lap.
Right, so he's gone purple.
Safety car.
Ah!
The guy's giving me the thumbs up like it's my fault.
It's a safety car.
Ah!
The guy's giving me the thumbs up like it's my fault. My corner.
I'm gonna be driving like a grandpa with this one.
The Dutch
Silhouette that we got in February when we started the challenge. That's unfortunate to think about. Wow! Check your gift box in Pokemon Home for mystery gifts. Inside of our gift box, we will now have our shiny Keldeo. We have finally got it. Not bad at all, chat.
Come on, bro. Every time.
With one more Pokemon that we need. Where's the best place to have horse lore? Wait, I can recreate man. Although there are a lot of significant Pokemon in this generation, personally, there really isn't one that's considered as the big one. In previous generations, it was Celebi due to rarity and Arceus due to it being a god. And while the original dragon would have definitely been the Pokemon for this generation, the closest thing that we have to it is just a fragment of it. Kyurem is going to be the final stop in this endless journey, and despite my feelings toward Black 2, White 2 as a child, seeing those fusions for the first time was an unforgettable experience. The concept of fusing Pokemon together to create a new one was nothing but rumors at that point in the franchise, and the fact that they're kind of meant to look broken makes them so unique, and there really hasn't been anything like that since. It hasn't happened since. So because I was only really getting started with the stream, I decided just to jump right into the final hunt, ready for the big finale. Hey, you're probably wondering, John, what insane way are you going to go get Kyurem? Well, chat, I'm happy to announce we're dual hunting it in Ultra Sun and Moon. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You thought I was gonna do something absurd? Chat, we've been doing this for 5 months. You think I was like, oh, let's do something crazy? No, chat, I'm done. I want to go to bed. So I began the last hunt for this ice dragon, and let me tell you, the feeling of being at the end of this was unreal. This is easily the most roller coaster video that I ever worked on in terms of challenge, adventure, and absurd moments. And while in the moment I was dying to be done, I was also sad to go. I really do try to pour everything into these videos, and this truly was such a daunting experience with all the new things I learned along the way. So I did my best to enjoy these final moments as much as I could. Oh, there is no way! We've done it! Is that not the same amount of encounters that was for Arceus? It was 128? Okay, that would have been crazy. New ball, everybody. We need a new ball. Mostly because we're running out. We've done it! And with that, chat, I can successfully say that we have caught
this game, bro. What do you mean?
Gen 5 Pokemon, we have got Kyurem. The first Kyurem. Did you guys think it was gonna be that easy? Come on now. There's Kyurem White, and then there's Kyurem Black. Of course, we're going to catch 2 Kyurem to end the video. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is not enough, especially that many encounters. Are we really satisfied? I'm not. I don't know about you. So with my secret third copy of Ultra Sun, I jumped right into hunting down the second one, and to the surprise of no one, this was not nearly as fast. I managed to get another 200 encounters by the end of stream, but I knew that realistically tomorrow was going to be the end of the challenge. I woke up early and immediately jumped into hunting with the obvious game plan of streaming all day, and while this was the main thing on our minds, so was the upcoming Pokemon Presents. While I really don't care too much for the endless rumor mill of this community, I do love hearing what people want to see in these games, and mine was definitely something that I was extremely hopeful for. If I could ask for anything to be presented at the Pokemon Presents, it would be that. It doesn't have to be like, oh, today we're doing an upgrade for the games. I would love for them to be like, hey, just letting you know in the future, we're going to be giving enhanced versions of all of the Pokemon games that were originally on the Switch. Yeah, it's also not just a Pokemon thing. They could do it for so many games. Imagine Splatoon at 60 FPS. Because isn't Splatoon 3, didn't that get an upgrade? I don't think what one's got an upgrade. I think Splatoon was one of them. Are you kidding? That's nuts! That is absolutely absurd! We did it! Yes! You were here! Okay, I just poked my sound bar. That's not good. I just poked it right off my desk. Oh, it looks even better the second time. Skill swap. Absolutely nuclear luck, chat. Like, that's insane. Oh yeah, because this is gonna be Kyurem Black, and so I bought a bunch of nest balls. This is gonna take forever. Why not Dusk? You know what? Just to entertain it. I don't have one. That was a good suggestion though. That was a really good one. We love good ideas. Hey, I mean, like, this is at least a little bit more exciting than the first one, right? At least it's putting up an effort to not be caught. I just want to get it in a green ball. Chat, this is it, the final ball.
so stupid. Because I know what's gonna happen next. I'm not dumb. Kiram hates you like my ex hates me. What do you want me to do with that information? I got your just in time. There were some chatters who said that 25 minutes ago. Come on. Yes. We're free. God, that was so bad. But we're finally done with this video. My goodness, what a finale. I had a nickname at the beginning of this battle, it's gone. Terrafrost, because it's frozen and it has the ability Terravolt. That sucks, you're just jealous you don't have one. All right, chat, nature guesses. Gentle, there's not a gentle thing about you. This could not be further from the truth. Well, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna send all of these to Pokemon Home. Where is the coolest place to see these Pokemon? Okay, so first thing we're going to do is let's just see them in-game. This is a regular Reshiram. Let's check out a shiny one. Oh, they look so good. So good. Regular Zekrom. I don't think the shiny Zekrom's that different. It is, and it's better. It's still good. And shiny Kiram, of course. Looks awesome. And all three of these are fantastic, right? No complaints, but there are better versions of all of these Pokemon. I think we're gonna check that out right now. DNA splicers. First one we use it on. Let's do Kiram White. Oh. Oh. Oh, it looks so good. Oh, man, that's sick. That's insane. This is going to be Kiram Black, which is, in my opinion, I haven't even seen it yet. It's gonna be the best one. I lied. I think we need to see it in battle because it turns green. Oh! Oh my God! Look! Holy! Oh, that's sick! That is absurd! How cool that looks! I didn't even know it floated. Okay, well we need to check out Kiram White then, because we did not do that one justice. Oh my God, it's so sick. It's so good. Well, we're all done, chat. That's the end of this video. We've caught every Gen 5 Pokemon and then some. Normally, I find a silly little bit to sneak in at the end of these videos, but I just want to say thank you for watching. This video took astronomically longer than I would have ever thought possible, but I truly hope that you liked it as much as I did. I promise the next one won't take nearly as long, and if you have any interest on checking out the next adventure that I go on, you can find me on Twitch, where I can assure you it's one that you don't want to miss. Have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Barbecue sauce that we put in, and make sure it's very hot, that sandwich coming out.
So when I give you the go, we're going to walk into frame. Max, you're going to sit this seat here.
2 more fries, a pickle, sweet pepper. Good, let's go.
So I'm going to put a question out to the table. We just want to see what goes through your head in the moments before the action starts. So this is for Alicia and Matt more specifically. Just before the lights go out, if you could kind of speak about what your mindset is.
The grid and the whole paddock is just such a crazy experience. Look at everyone getting into the cars and the number of people and TV cameras. It's an absolute zoo. And some people, they get into that and they can socialize and they can talk, and other people are just in the zone. And it just, I don't know how you switch between, I'm in this mindset where I'm talking to someone, and then I'm in a mindset where I'm actually going to race at, 200 miles an hour.
I guess before the start of the race, 5 red lights come on. I think for me, that's always the most nerve-wracking part of the whole weekend. I always believe at turn 1, that's the most risk versus reward part of the whole race. I think it's where you can lose a race very easily, and it's where you can win a race as well, as you showed at Imola. I find a lot of pressure because there's so many people in your team behind you that goes into putting so much work in behind the scenes to get you there on the grid, and it's then down to you to perform, deliver the results. So I think it's just about staying focused and not getting overwhelmed in the situation. I don't know if this is something you've experienced, but you can almost hear your own heartbeat. Just everything seems to slow down because you're just so focused on those lights. Yeah. And all those adrenaline and nerves, I feel as soon as you release the clutch, as soon as you set off, they all just disappear instantly, and you're just so focused on what you're doing that you don't feel that adrenaline, you don't feel those nerves, just so focused and in the moment. So I think it's quite a weird experience in a way.
Some tracks, you know that probably the start is more important than others. So you know that, for example, in Monaco, you need to have a good start. In some other places, you know that, okay, maybe if the start is not amazing, it's still a very long race. You know, there are maybe places that you can get it back, but for sure, once the lights go on, yeah, you just focus on everything that you practiced and making sure that you hit the procedure and just go from there.
The one that jumps to mind is watching Brazil last year, that first corner. And it's like you're in a different race. And there's obviously part of that's car, but part of it must be mental as well.
It was a tough day, to be honest. Emotions from was shooting left and right. So at the end of that day, I was also actually very tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, from initially, of course, being very upset and sad to then, of course, winning and of course, being incredibly happy. And I definitely felt after that day, I was like, I need to have a good sleep. I think it's important to always, where it starts, you have to believe in yourself, that you can do it. Yeah. Because I think in the world that we live in, also in racing, like there will always be people that try to bring you down or, you know, try to be negative. Now, I think what is very important is you have to just try and stay neutral in everything. So positive things, negative things, comments. That's how I grew up. Like I tried to always, whatever, if someone was very positive and negative, I would ignore it. I just focus on myself and believe that, you know, and have the confidence that, yeah, I mean, I belong here. I want to be there. You know, you said, of course, your target of where you want to be, and that's how you move on.
Well, I think the easiest way not to achieve something is not to believe you can do it.
Yeah.
We even have this thing where in teams, like, you set these big, audacious, crazy goals, and people tell you they're crazy. But even if, you know, you only achieve 80% of them, that's still amazing. The worst thing to do is set this target here, where you actually then will only achieve here. It's much better to dream incredibly big and try and have those moonshots where you're going to achieve it. And whether it's technology or it's personal growth or it's business or people, even if you don't achieve it, there's so much gain in it.
The moment where I think I felt like I belong here, I think was when I joined Red Bull, to be honest, when I got the email for the first time, you know, when I first started the communication with an F1 team. I mean, I just am the most normal girl. I come from a normal family in Manchester in the UK, so this is all a dream come true, to be honest, the situation that I'm in now. But I feel like whenever I'm in the Red Bull campus, technology campus in Milton Keynes in the UK, whenever I'm there just walking around doing simulator prep in the gym, I just take a minute just to stop, look round and realise that actually this is a dream come true, and all the hard work it just feels like it's paying off now. I feel like I was born with racing in my blood. I feel like this is where I do belong to be and deserve to be, so it's all a dream come true. Something for me actually that I wanted to mention was I've got a new engineer this year, new race team, new group of people completely. I've got a guy called Diego, and he speaks better English than me, which is a great first start, honestly.
And he's Spanish?
He's Spanish, yes, yeah, so he's a legend, he's brilliant. I think we spent a lot of time this year on the simulator as well. I spent a lot of time in the Campos factory over in Valencia, just spending time with him so that we learn how each other works, we learn how we can extract the best from each other. I've just been really fortunate with who I've got this year. And so far, so good, to be honest. You and GP are just icons. Like, you're absolute legends. I love listening to you both.
It is very important to have a good relationship with your engineer.
Absolutely, this is what I was going to ask. What sort of tips would you have in terms of how you work with GP and how do you maximise?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, if you would tell me right now, like, you need to swap race engineer, I think that's a very difficult thing to accept, just because of when you have a good relationship with your engineer.
Yeah, ready to check.
Okay, you are loud.
But not clear.
I almost don't need to speak because he knows exactly what I need or want from the car. Yeah. And I think you can hear it on the radio. Of course, we have our fiery comments here and there.
Max, use your head, please.
Are we both doing it or what?
You just follow my instruction.
No, I want to know if both cars do it.
Max, please follow my instruction and trust it. Thank you.
But I think it actually works really well for us. But besides that, we, in like very difficult situations in the race, I think, we can always get the most out of it. With a race engineer, it's not always the easiest, you know, especially when you're new. So I think the more time, you get to spend time together during a race weekend, or when you're practicing on the simulator, going for dinners, you know, just also a bit outside of the racing environment, just getting to know the person, you know, I think that that always helps.
When I listen to you and you're talking to your engineer, it's almost like this complementary personality, and that creates this really positive dynamic. And it sort of reminds me a lot of the teamwork when you see different, you know, it's like putting a team on a field and then playing a sport, and you want complementary skills.
Holy, this doesn't seem to be that hard.
Magic that like balances out, it makes the communication a bit easier, the emotion gets a bit more balanced.
Into the pit lane, please, Max. Or should I call you Elvis?
No, don't do that.
For me, it's my first year in F1 Academy this year. It's a new car for me that I'm driving. So last year I raced in the GB4 Championship in the UK, but it was a Gen 1 F4 car, whereas this is the Gen 2 F4 car. So I'm not pretending they're completely different cars, because they're not. They're roughly the same car. But I've found that they do have very different characteristics that require quite a different driving technique.
Same tyres?
So yes, same tyres, yeah. So that obviously takes away a factor.
Yeah.
This car has a halo, which last year it didn't, so the car's a little bit heavier. There's a front camber limitation as well in the regs this year, so I find this car it's more prone to understeer compared to last year. I had a really darty front end, sort of what I hear that you like, a little bit of movement in the rear. That's what I've been used to and always loved throughout my career, so I've had to really adapt how I drive, my driving skills, all that sort of stuff. So I found adapting is a big skill that I just wondered for you, does that come naturally for you, adapting to different setups, different cars, or is it something that you've had to develop throughout your career?
Yeah, it's something that I practiced from a young age. Of course, from my side, what helped, I think, growing up with my dad, who had raced in F1 himself. So I think from a very young age, we went testing. What my dad really liked to do is he was always like changing the setup without telling me what it was. And I had to come back in and tell him what the feeling was, and then he would say, okay, that's correct, or you didn't feel that correct. And it was a constant like learning process. And we would do all these like different kind of like mini races or different kind of things to basically adapt. You know, you're constantly adapting and play these kind of games. So yeah, it was fun. You know, we were racing, having a great time, you know, just enjoying also. And I do think that has helped me a lot, you know, over the years to adapt quickly to things, or when I have a problem, like when I feel, oh, the car is very oversteered, but you are in the race, what can you do? You know, you can't come in and change the setup, so you have to adapt to what the car needs. Plus, I do a lot of sim racing. I drive a lot of different cars, so from GT cars to smaller Formula cars to, of course, F1. The more I drive different kind of cars, the more, you know, you have to be precise with a lot of little things, and I bring that back into Formula One, and I think it does help me. I mean, I'm constantly doing the same thing. It's my hobby, of course, but at the same time, I'm constantly thinking about setup. How can I go faster? Yeah, I think it definitely helps.
When we did the Rocked Red Bull partnership, a big piece of it was let's find all the aspects within that partnership to light up some of these opportunities. And the team's been really good at working with us on F1 Academy, Rock the Rig, Female Engineering Days, and there's a whole bunch of them that we've been doing together. And it's been really good because it takes what otherwise just like a corporate sponsorship and a logo on a jersey and say, look, we really want to work together, and the people on both sides have shared mission, vision. Let's do something exciting and bring something to life. It's as much about our sort of core mission of how do we unleash the potential of what we do in e-commerce to help our business clients achieve more. But a big piece of it is also the people. You can't continue to grow a business at 40% every year unless you're actually getting people coming through the business at the same pace. So it's really about finding those groups of hidden talent and saying, how do we actually help them achieve something they couldn't otherwise achieve?
Bread's fresh?
Yes.
Meat's hot?
It's hot, it's always fresh.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. This looks good enough to eat.
I do want to relive I think probably some moments in 23 to probably appreciate a little bit more what we were doing. Because at the time you always said, you have to be focused, and you always so focused on that weekend trying to win, and then you go to the next, so you don't actually, it was almost like ticking off boxes, and you're not actually fully embracing and enjoying the moment, and I think you only really fully realize it again once you stop winning that much.
Yeah.
And
you look box ticking.
Yeah, and of course that was.
He had a faster lap.
You do not enjoy it as you should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how it is. But if I had the chance, I probably would.
Interested boss mode.
Appreciate a bit more, even on a Sunday after the race or whatever. Yeah, just take it in a bit more.
Yeah, I think for me, a moment I'd love to just relive and experience again was the opening round of F1 Academy this year, my first race in Shanghai, which I actually won in my debut race, which I know, yeah, thank God. It was an amazing feeling because I think, I mean, as you'll know, in every form of motorsport, you have loads of pre-season testing, there's a lot of preparation work goes on behind the scenes, and you start to get a rough idea of where you think you are, where your strengths and weaknesses are, but you never really know the actual pecking order until the first race. So to have won the first race of the year was just the biggest confidence booster for me. Yeah, it was just such an awesome feeling coming in, pulling up to the first place spot. More people than I've ever seen in my life just stood there. I was like, oh my gosh, all these people for me.
Make sure you park in the right spot.
I know, honestly, not knock over the board. That would have been good, but yeah, that was just an awesome moment.
That ability to know, I think, that you've faced something down and got through it, just instills this level of confidence and belief in people that then when they get the next challenge, it doesn't really matter what the challenge is, the more they overcome them, the more they actually get confidence, I think. And they get this inner drive and hunger, which is like, I can crack that problem, I can do it. And once they get that confidence or that belly fire in them, then we see them do incredible things. Have I had a moment that rocked?
Look how happy all of your team
are. What you can share, of course.
The birth of your children is one of those ones. It's like such an amazing personal thing that you know goes with you forever. On the business side, it's when you get those things that you've worked with for a long time, and often they're team related. So you see a group of people that didn't think they could do it, and then they tackle a problem and they solve it. Running a business is like running lots of different sporting teams, and it's like you've got people progressing up the ladder all the time. And when you see a team that actually win, it's like sitting and watching Formula One and you win the championship. So
I'm more nervous watching like my drivers race than I am myself.
Yeah, because there's so much effort.
And also because I don't feel like I'm in control, you know? So, you know, you're like, you just hope that whatever you did or like the preparation has gone well, and then it's up to them to deliver and perform, you know, the end result, basically. And I could see the same with like when I was racing like my dad. He was always like very nervous. I'll never forget this. My world championship race in go-karting. I was lined up on the grid, and you just sit there for a few minutes before then they say you can go. And I saw him just going next to the track, like up and down, up and down. I was like, what is he doing? And he's just so nervous. He couldn't stand still. He's just going up and down to make sure that, you know, you made my engine. And he was like, did I do everything right? Like, is it all set up correctly? And he was just like super nervous. And they're just like trotting around. I was like, you know, these kind of things where I know that when he races himself, he's not nervous. At the time, of course, it was a bit confusing, but now I understand, because even, of course, it's not even like my son or daughter racing. It's like my drivers, but you get very nervous for like a start or like a pit stop or, you know, qualifying, compared to when I do it myself.
I think the moment that rocked for me, just thinking out there right now, is going back to the win in China, the first race this year. Both my parents were there. They've been to every single race, both of them, that I've ever done for the last 10 years, my whole career. They're the most supportive parents. So getting that win and just seeing my parents stood there, I've never seen them so happy, and it just felt really nice just to repay them and make them proud, really, in that moment that I'll always cherish, really. So I'd say that was a moment that rocked.
I think the moment that rocked for you that I remember when you were in New York and you went to the NASDAQ launch.
Yes.
And my marketing team go up and go, someone just commented on our social media feed, and it was your mum.
Yeah, I know.
She was so excited.
Oh, honestly, that was not a moment that rocked for me. But somebody came over to me and was like, oh my God, is your mum called Natalie? And I'm like, oh, why? I'm like, oh no, what has she done?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That rocks.
Absolutely. 100%.
That was cool.
Moments that rock. I mean, like you mentioned, like, you know, seeing your child for the first time, like your little baby, that is something that is very special. Like for me, those are like moments that rocked. You know, it's just super nice to see that from, you know, when I grew up with my sister, and then seeing her having her babies and having a happy family life. Like that's amazing. You know, besides all the performance-related stuff that happened, of course, in my career. For me, that is the most important. Seeing your family
What the
happy.
fuck is wrong with this guy?
Time, living a good life. That for me probably is way more important, of course, of whatever we achieve in racing.
Checking out my decals, huh? Hey, winner's gotta.
Did you know that in the Generation 1 Pokemon games, if you go into a gym, face one of these statues, then pull out your fishing rod, it will actually let you fish? This is from an oversight with the tile that the statue is placed on. But did you know that you could also use cut to cut grass in Generation 1? This appears in some future generations as well, but whenever I mention this in a video, people in the comments always say they have no idea that you could do this. Now, while you could spend your time cutting grass in Generation 2 as well, you could also go to the Safari Zone. Well, actually, you can't, but there does exist a map in the game files for Gold and Silver suggesting that a Safari Zone was at least planned, but never actually implemented. Another secret in the Gen 2 games that you can do pretty easily while playing through the game normally is turn off the surveillance cameras in the Team Rocket headquarters under the sketchy shop in Mahogany Town. All you have to do is walk up to the scientist, defeat him in battle, then go to his computer and turn off the cameras. This will allow you to go through the rest of the headquarters without those annoying cameras seeing you and sending Team Rocket grunts after you to battle. As for Generation 3, Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire introduced a new move in Icicle Spear. There's just one problem though. No Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire can actually learn Icicle Spear, and you can't even obtain the TM for it. Despite this, there is still an animation for the move in Ruby and Sapphire, which you can only obtain legitimately if you trade over a Pokemon from Fire Red or Leaf Green, which released about a year and a half later, as in that game, Pokemon can learn Icicle Spear. Another unused secret element in Ruby and Sapphire is this. Unused sprites for your character doing a wheelie off the front wheels of your bike. I don't know why you would ever need to do a wheelie off the front of your bike when you can do them on your back wheels as well, but it was at least planned sometime in development. For something you can actually access in the game though, there's the Scorched Slab. It's a cave on Route 120 that serves no important purpose despite having a unique name. You can get the TM for Sunny Day here, and it's said that this cave is modeled after Ama no Iwado, a mythological Japanese cave where the sun goddess Amaterasu shut herself in. This could just be a fun Easter egg, but given the specific history, it makes me wonder if more was ever planned for the Scorched Slab. It did plan ahead a bit in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, however, as we move on to the 4th generation of Pokemon, with this gift tentacle you could get. A gift tentacle doesn't sound all that interesting since tentacle can be found pretty much everywhere in the Johto region's waters, but this specific tentacle wasn't even known to exist when the game first came out. In order to get this tentacle, you have to be in Cianwood City and have no Pokemon with the moves Fly or Surf, and no Pokemon that can learn them. If you talk to this person in the Pokemon Center, they will then give you a level 15 tentacle, so you can then use Surf to get out of the town, as otherwise you would be soft locked here with no way to leave. An even cooler part about this tentacle is you could soft reset for it to find a shiny. As for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, did you know that these were bike racks, and you could interact with them to get on or off your bike? It doesn't serve too much of a purpose since you could just register your bike so you can ride it by just pressing select, but it's a cool little feature nonetheless. There's even a few secret wallpapers like this Team Galactic wallpaper for your PC that you can unlock with a special phrase depending on what your trainer's ID number is if you talk to this person in the Poketch building and say the correct phrases. Also in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, on certain days of the year you could see what looks like snow falling from the sky. It's called Diamond Dust and only appears on certain days like Junichi Masuda's birthday on January 12th, Pokemon Day on February 27th, and April 22nd, which is the day Diamond and Pearl released in North America and is also Earth Day, and I just checked my schedule and it's also supposed to be the day this video goes up.
Similar diamond dust appears in Pokemon Black and White and Pokemon Black and White 2 as well on New Year's Eve. Now, while Team Rocket don't appear in the 5th generation, you could still find an ex-Team Rocket member in Unova. He lives in Icarus City and isn't wearing the signature Team Rocket Grunt uniform, but it's implied that the same guy is the same Team Rocket Grunt who robbed that one house.
How did that not work,
and
bro?
he moved to Unova to abandon his life of crime. In Black 2 and White 2, you can also find a former Team Aqua member and a former Team Magma member that are living together. The woman mentions how she was part of a group that wanted to cover the world in water, and the man says he was part of a group that wanted to make more land. They both say not to tell their partner their secrets, even though they're standing right next to you. Another couple you can find in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 are Curtis and Yancey. You find their lost cross transceiver in Nimbasa City.
I'm going crazy over this trap.
Yancey, depending on which character you're playing as, will call you periodically. After 10 calls, you can return the cross transceiver to them, but then they will just call you on your own cross transceiver. You get called if you're standing on a specific tile in the game, and in some of these calls, they will offer to trade you Pokemon like Snorlax, Sableye, or Ralph that you can trade for any Pokemon that you have. There's 12 total Pokemon that can be traded to you from Curtis and Yancey, although unlocking all 12 is rather tedious, and I don't think many people out there ever got all 12 trades from them. Pokemon X and Y has an infamous item called the Strange Souvenir. It's given to you by an NPC in the hotel who hints that it's from another region far away. He doesn't say where it's from, but the item appears again in Pokemon Sun and Moon with an updated description saying, an ornament depicting a mysterious Pokemon that has been venerated as a guardian deity for an extremely long time in the Alola region, showing that even way back in X and Y, they already had some plans for Sun and Moon. While they did do a pretty good job for planning ahead for Sun and Moon with the Strange Souvenir, they didn't seem to plan ahead when they added AZ's Floette into Pokemon X and Y. AZ doesn't even use one of his own Floettes when you battle him, but AZ's Floette still exists in the game files as a Pokemon with different stats than regular Floette, can't evolve, and is unobtainable. This could suggest that it was originally planned for AZ to have one on his team when you battle him, or even for the player to be able to obtain one, but that was never the case. It even exists in the game files for future Pokemon games too, which could just be leftover data, but seeing as we never got to see the full story to Pokemon X and Y, I can't help but wonder if there was more in store planned for AZ's Floette. Then, in Anastar City, there is a man who asks you for a low-level Pokemon to keep him company. This seems rather innocent, but if you give him a Pokemon, then return to him after defeating the Elite Four, you will see a Pokeball containing the Pokemon on the ground, with a note implying that the man passed away. It's such a random and sad event that not too many people know about. Something similar happens in Generation 7 if you go to the Howali Cemetery in Alola at night in Sun and Moon. Here you can see a woman with her Machamp in front of a grave. She says how she comes here to pay respects to her husband who passed away while with his Machamp. The Machamp survived and now refuses to stay inside of its own Pokeball because it thinks it could have saved his trainer if it wasn't stuck in the Pokeball. On a much lighter note, there's a cool secret in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee located on the docks near Vermilion City. You can actually find a truck here similar to the classic and iconic truck in the Generation 1 Pokemon games that appears off-screen next to the SS Anne. The truck spawned many rumors about Mew, when in reality it was just a random truck here, placed here for no real reason. And this truck in Let's Go is similar, as you wouldn't normally see it unless you go out of your way to find it, and it also serves no real purpose. It would have been neat if they let you catch Mew here or something, but instead, to get Mew in Let's Go, you have to buy this thing. For Generation 8, did you know that in Sword and Shield, the Joy-Cons in your room will match the Joy-Cons on your actual Switch that you're using to play Sword and Shield? This one seems pretty well known by now, but have you ever noticed that in Motostoke, the fire department has this funny logo with an artillery on it? You can also find this statue across the Galar region, which might look familiar to you since it's the same statue of Krogunk which appears on the counters of the Pokemart in Diamond and Pearl. You can find the same Krogunk statue in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and a lot of the secrets in these games are carried over from the original Diamond and Pearl game, except there were a few changes with some of the books in the Kanalave City Library. One book mentions how there was a Quillfish with huge spikes, which was a hint towards Hisuian Quillfish and its evolution over Quill, which has huge spikes. We of course got Legends Arceus released only a couple of months after Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, And much like the strange souvenir, this was a nice little hint towards the next Pokemon game.
This kid's
Lance appeared
Mexican.
as the final Elite Four member in Pokemon Red and Blue before becoming the champion.
And he's not the leader? I thought he's the leader.
Did you know that Lance is actually from the Johto region, with his hometown being Blackthorn City, where his cousin Claire remains as the Dragon-type gym leader? When you rematch Lance in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can easily take advantage of his team as they all have 4 times super effective weaknesses, making it pretty easy for what is supposed to be one of the most difficult fights in the game. Lance also has 2 Pokemon with moves they shouldn't normally have. His Dragonite knows Barrier in Red and Blue, and then in Gold and Silver his Aerodactyl has Rock Slide. Strangely, Aerodactyl couldn't learn Rock Slide until Generation 3. Much later, in 2016, there was an event for a Dragonite with Barrier released to people who played in the Kanto Classic Wi-Fi event for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire to commemorate Lance's Barrier Dragonite. Lance also cheats in the Japanese versions of Pokemon Stadium 2, as his Feraligatr and Tyranitar are both holding the Quick Claw item, even though item clauses in the rule set and the player can't have repeat items on their team. This was fixed in international versions though, with Feraligatr holding a Mystic Water instead now. Technically, Lance isn't the first champion in Pokemon, as in Generation 1 your rival is the champion briefly and then you of course become the champion. But we'll save rivals and protagonists for a future video or something. For now, let's move on to Generation 3, which has 2 champions, starting with Steven Stone, who first appeared in Ruby and Sapphire. In the French versions of the game, Steven is named Pierre, which is also the same as Brock's name in French. Since Brock and Steven both appear in the Generation 3 anime, they just called Steven by his English name in the French dub of the anime to avoid any confusion, since him and Brock appear on screen at the same time some places. Now, since Steven Stone and Brock both appear in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Brock is just called Pierre, while Steven is called P. Rochard, which is his first initial and then his last name in French. Steven makes another mistake in Pokemon Emerald if you speak to him in Meteor Falls. He mentions the battle you helped him with in the Moss Deep City Space Center, but he says the Seutopolis City Space Center by mistake. This is even funnier when you realize that Steven's hometown is Moss Deep City, so he should know that the Space Center's in his hometown. Now, despite Generation 3 introducing double battles, this battle with Steven in the Space Center is the only time the player teams up with somebody for a double battle in Emerald version. Steven does have a similarity with Lance though, as although Steven is a Steel-type specialist, he too often has Pokemon on his team that aren't even Steel-type. At least Wallace, the other champion in Generation 3, does have a team full of Pokemon that fit his signature type in Water. He was a gym leader in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire before becoming the champion, and he is the only gym leader that gives out an HM for defeating him instead of a TM like every other gym leader does. In the HM, he gives out his Waterfall so you can make it to the Elite Four. Wallace is also technically a Pokemon coordinator, something that is more fleshed out in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire with his cousin, Lycia, but even though Wallace is a coordinator, he doesn't nickname his Pokemon like every other coordinator does. Contest coordinators return in Generation 4 as well, but the champion in Diamond and Pearl isn't a coordinator. She's everyone's favorite champion, Cynthia. Many champions before her repeat types on her team or even have multiple Pokemon of the same species, but in Diamond and Pearl, none of Cynthia's Pokemon types are shared with other team members, and her whole team consists of 11 unique types, with 12 being the maximum, making it one of the most diverse teams for any NPC to have. Cynthia also alludes to having another house outside of the Sinnoh region in Platinum version.
1 minute 3 seconds is insane.
Another region. She of course can't live in both houses at the same time, since you can't be in 2 places at the same time, unless you count the Distortion World. In Platinum version, after completing all of the events of the Distortion World with Cynthia, you can use the portal to go back to the regular world to see
Oh my god, the same
again, you will still see Cynthia there until you talk to her again in the overworld. It is fitting for Cynthia and Cyrus to have this conflict, as the English name for Cynthia is an epithet of the Greek goddess Artemis and is a poetic name for the moon, which parallels Cyrus'
Oh, it's a different
name, which is often associated with the sun. Cynthia in the games is very interested in history and mythology, making her name even more fitting. Much like Generation 4, Generation 5 is rich with the region's history and mythology, starting with the 2 champions of this generation, Alder and Iris. Alder is an old man who somehow doesn't break his knees after making this jump, and he isn't known for using a single Pokemon type, although he does have 3 different Bug-type Pokemon on his team. He also has Boufflant, and Boufflant is just cool. and he is the only champion to ever exclusively use Pokemon that were introduced in his same generation. You also don't have to battle Alder in the main story, since Team Plasma kind of messes that whole thing up, making Alder the only champion you don't have to fight to beat the main story. He's never returned in a future Pokemon game, so he's also never been seen using a Pokemon that wasn't from Gen 5, but he does have this Volcarona, which died. Well, not this exact Volcarona, but a past Volcarona that he had. This is a rare instance of a trainer talking about a Pokemon on their team that
Insane amount of
and his
turns,
Volcarona
bro.
died due to a previous illness. This ties into the inspiration for his English name though, which is after the Alder moth. On a much lighter note, Alder can also be seen carrying more than 6 Pokeballs with Pokemon in them at a single time. This is because he could never figure out the PC storage system, which is just so fitting for an old man to not know how to use modern technology. Alder being old is even more seen in the Japanese versions of Pokemon Black and White, where he speaks in an old-fashioned Japanese dialect. As for Alder's counterpart champion, we have Iris, who is the Dragon-type specialist and the champion in Pokemon Black 2 and Pokemon White 2. She is the only champion to keep her Japanese name in English too, and although she is only a gym leader in Pokemon White and not the champion, her Haxorus has the ability Sheer Force in that game, despite not having any moves that can take advantage of the Sheer Force ability. Iris is also the only champion to not appear in the Pokemon World Tournament in Pokemon Black and White 2, probably because she's too busy being the actual champion in those games, although she does have a Hydreigon on her team at level 53, despite Zuelios not evolving until level 64. When it comes to the anime, Iris travels with Ash as he journeys across the Unova region, and she is the first among Ash's friends to battle a champion as she battles Cynthia once, and she is the only one of Ash's friends to ever be a champion. For Generation 6 in Pokemon X and Y, we have another woman champion in Diantha. Diantha is also part of another trainer class called the Grand Duchess, which is a title that can only be given to the player if they play as Serena and go through the trainers in the Battle Chateau. She is also the only champion to not use Pokemon that are the same color. Now, in case you don't know, each Pokemon is assigned a different color category in the Pokedex, and in the case for Diantha's team, she has her green Hawlucha, red Tyrantrum, blue Aurorus, brown Gourgeist, purple Gudra, and white Gardevoir. And yes, I know some of these colors don't make that much sense, but they only give them one color. Diantha also didn't have her own card in the Pokemon trading card game until the Sun and Moon set Forbidden Light in 2018. I thought this was a bit weird since Steven, Iris, Cynthia, and a few other champions have had cards based on them that have came out in their respective generations, but then I realized that to this day, Alder has no signature card at all. Now, Generation 7 technically has no official champion, as Professor Kukui is a placeholder champion, since there was no Alolan champion yet, which is weird since in the strange souvenir item in Pokemon X and Y, an item that hints towards the Alola region, it mentions that region's champion, although in the events of Pokemon X and Y would have taken place before the events of Sun and Moon, meaning at that time there shouldn't have been a champion either. We could talk about Professor Kukui here since he is the closest thing to an Alola champion, but let's save that for a potential Professors video and move on to Leon, the champion of the Galar region. Leon's cape features all of his sponsors, including a Game Freak logo. He's also the first champion to give the player their starter Pokemon, and his name in Japanese
it's the worst ever.
the first part of the word Dandelion, with Leon coming from the later half of that word in English. So although it's not the same name, I appreciate the consistency and the inspiration for it. Galar does also feature some of the past region's champions in its DLC in Mustard and Peony. Mustard is the only NPC champion to use a legendary Pokemon in Urshifu, while Peony focuses on Steel-type Pokemon and is the only champion that doesn't have a full team of Pokemon at any point where you can battle him in the game. Sure, you don't ever have to fight these two champions to claim the title as champion in their games, but they are still technically champions. As for our most recent champion, we have Geeta in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. She is the only champion alongside Alder, because Alder is just weird, that doesn't use a pseudo-legendary Pokemon or a starter Pokemon on her championship team. Her English name comes from the word Sagittaria, which is a plant that resembles Glimmora also, which is her ace Pokemon. Unfortunately, not much else is fleshed out for Geeta, as we don't really hear much about her throughout the game or see much of her. First, we have Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue.
Yo, what is this?
The entire game's existence are a mistake because, well, have you ever played Red and Blue? But aside from the more well-known glitches and grammatical mistakes, my favorite mistake has to be the glitch that lets you bypass stone evolutions. Let's say you want to evolve your Staryu into Starmie and for whatever reason don't have access to a water stone. All you need to do to evolve it is get an Onyx, then get into a battle leading with your Staryu that is close to leveling up. Switch into Onyx.
What the fuck is this? I thought this was bad, but...
Staryu will then evolve into Starmie. This happens because of an oversight with how data is stored, with Onyx sharing some sort of value with the Water Stone that tricks the game into thinking that Staryu should evolve upon leveling up. This method works with any Pokemon that evolves with a Water Stone in Red and Blue. However, you can also use it to bypass other Stone evolutions with different Pokemon, as you can see on your screen here. And yeah, for one of them, you need Missing No, which is pretty funny. This stone bypassing error was fixed in Pokemon Yellow version along with many other glitches from Red and Blue, but Yellow version still has its fair share of mistakes. Like if you go to the Celadon City department store and talk to this one person on the 4th floor, he'll say that he's getting a Pokédoll to give to the copycat in Cerulean City. The copycat doesn't live in Cerulean City though, as they live in Saffron City. Also in Pokemon Yellow, your starter Pikachu famously follows you around because it doesn't like being in its Pokeball. Because of this, when you send out in battle and it's first in your party, it just runs across the screen as opposed to coming out of a Pokeball like any other Pokemon would. The issue with this is when you first get Pikachu and battle your rival, Pikachu is still in the Pokeball and doesn't yet break out of its Pokeball and follow you around, but that same animation for Pikachu running out into battle plays at the start of battle when it should be sent out of a Pokeball here. At least that mistake doesn't persist in Pokemon Gold and Silver, since Pokemon don't follow you around in those games, which is one positive to Pokemon not following you, I guess. They did, however, make a mistake with the moves Lock On and Mind Reader, which are similar moves that are intended to make the user's next attack hit the target Pokemon no matter what. Due to a programming oversight with how these moves work, if a target Pokemon is affected by Lock On or Mind Reader, then the other Pokemon goes for a move like Attract, Curse, Foresight, Transform, and a couple of other non-damaging moves, while the target Pokemon is in the first turn of Fly or Dig. The move coming from the Pokemon with Lock On or Mind Reader will not hit. Similarly, additional move effects like Bubble's chance to lower speed won't activate either, even if the move hits. It just has a 0% chance to activate in those situations. Now, Pokemon Gold and Silver, and by association Crystal, are notorious for having weird level gaps between gyms and other key trainers, and a region layout that can easily have you battle people out of order. You can even battle your rival out of order in one instance, where he is at 2 places at once. In Crystal, when you enter the Burn Tower for the first time, your rival doesn't immediately challenge you to a battle like they do in Gold and Silver, so you can hold off on battling him and go into Olivine City, where you will then see your rival walking out of Jasmine's gym and then talk to you. Then if you go back to the Burn Tower, your rival will still be there waiting for you to battle them, even though he should be gone by now. Surprisingly, for early released Pokemon games, the Generation 2 games as a whole don't really have that many glaring mistakes when it comes to grammar or typos, especially compared to the Generation 1 games. But then in Generation 3, we got some more spelling or grammar mistakes with Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. The most famous example comes from Mawwile's Pokedex entry, which has an H after the W in its name, which it isn't supposed to have. This was fixed in later releases of Ruby and Sapphire, but since it wasn't easy to patch games that didn't have online connectivity in the early 2000s, if you have a copy of Ruby and Sapphire that might have been right when the games released in 2003, you should check to see if yours has the correct or incorrect Mawwile Pokedex entry. This one is also really subtle, but on Route 134, there is a tile of flowing water that you can walk on, and if you do it, it pushes you back to land, much like it would do if you were just surfing on it. Let's take a break from the Hoenn region for now and revisit Kanto with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green version. There's a minor spelling mistake with the TJTV where the Pokedude will say Key Items Pocket, but the word pocket will have the K and the C switched around. Another funny error happens in these games when it comes to the listings of the Pokemon's categories in the Pokedex. If they have a category that's supposed to be 2 words, like how Pidgey is the tiny bird Pokemon, it would only display the first word, making Pidgey just the tiny Pokemon. Now back to Hoenn with Pokemon Emerald. Surprisingly, this and a few other glitches exist in Pokemon Emerald version that were not in Fire and Leaf Green or Ruby and Sapphire. Maybe in the future we can take a more in-depth look at Pokemon Emerald glitches, since surprisingly there's a lot of glitches exclusive to Emerald. But there is also a mistake with some of Steven's dialogue when you tried to battle him in the Meteor Falls in the post-game. He remembers the time you helped him in the Sutopolis City Space Center, although the Space Center isn't in Sutopolis City, it's in Mossdeep City. Now, the idea of space in the Pokemon world is expanded upon further in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the first core series games on the Nintendo DS, which also have their fair share of mistakes, although some of these mistakes exist outside of the actual games themselves. Like in the North American manual for Pearl version, it says you have to trade Pokemon to complete the Pokedex, although it says you have to trade with Pearl version to complete the Pokedex, which wouldn't work since Pearl version doesn't have the Diamond version exclusives and it's supposed to say trade with Diamond version. Then on the back cover of the Australian version for Diamond version, it says the Pokemon that ruins space in Diamond version, when Dialga, the Diamond version exclusive, is the Pokemon that ruins
That's probably the worst.
Palkia, the Pearl version exclusive, ruins space. As for the actual games themselves, in order to transfer a Pokemon from Fire Red or Leaf Green into Diamond and Pearl, there will be a small typo where it would put a space between the Fire and the Red, and then another space between the Leaf and the Green, when they are supposed to be one word without the space.
Damn, bro, he's iced out. Call it.
About 2 years after Diamond and Pearl. In Platinum version, though, they did mess up Black Belt Eddie's dialogue in the Victory Road. After defeating him, he is supposed to say done in, but if you battle him in a double battle with the other nearby trainer, the text will just be all jumbled with the letters all over the place. For Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they allowed any Pokemon to follow you as opposed to just Pikachu like we saw back in Yellow version, as long as they weren't too big for the area and were first in your party. Because of this, if you enter the Cianwood City Gym with a Pokemon that is too big to follow you around and is inside of its Pokeball, then stand behind this waterfall here and switch your lead Pokemon to something that can follow you, the Pokemon will appear in a different part of the gym that it isn't supposed to be in. Moving on to Gen 5 with Pokemon Black and White, in the Chargestone Cave, if a dust cloud appears next to one of the blue rocks you can push and you interact with the rock, the dust cloud sprite will move on top of the player instead of being underneath the player like it's supposed to be. There's also a few instances where if you're surfing and find an NPC standing right next to the edge of the water, you can sometimes glitch onto the NPC when you go onto land and stand in the same tile that they're standing on. For their sequels, Pokemon Black 2 and Pokemon White 2, there is a minor grammatical error in the gate between Nimbasa City and Route 16, where an NPC will say, 2 years ago, a Pokemon called Zoroark was hiding in its lair in the Lost North Forest on Route 16, where the word "its" has an apostrophe between the T and the S when it shouldn't, as when you put an apostrophe in the word "it's," it's supposed to mean "it is," which doesn't make sense for this sentence. In Pokemon X and Y, if you walk past any sign, your player's head will turn to look at the sign even if you are walking parallel to the sign, which allows you to interact and read the signs without directly facing them. Kind of a minor but nice quality of life feature in Pokemon X and Y. For some reason though, this just doesn't work with the sign in front of the daycare center on Route 7, and you can only read it if you're directly facing it. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire also have a strange mistake, but this time with the promotional material used when advertising the game. They release an image of Mega Blaziken using Ice Punch on a Flygon, but Blaziken can't learn Ice Punch. Also in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, some Pokemon, like Wailmer and Sharpedo, have unique surfing models that if they're used to surf. If you happen to be surfing on your Wailmer though, use your fishing rod, battle a Pokemon so that your Wailmer then evolves into Wailord. The game will freeze when the battle ends because the game is trying to change from Wailmer's surfing model into the default generic model that Pokemon would have, which confuses the game. There's another glitch involving evolution in Pokemon Sun and Moon, where sometimes when a Pokemon is evolving on the screen, you can see a transparent version of the Pokemon it's trying to evolve into right next to it. Then in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the last main series games for the 3DS, if you go to Coney City, you'll notice some NPCs are actually Dittos like this chef in the restaurant. If you happen to stand slightly to the right of this Ditto, then talk to the Ditto chef, this will start a battle. Then if you defeat the Ditto in battle or catch the imposter chef Ditto, the imposter chef will disappear and then the real chef will rush in to try to go to his spot to work. However, since you're in the real chef's way, he will just keep walking into you for about 30 seconds and then stop. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee also have some NPCs who do weird things. Like if you battle your rival in the SS Anne and they use a full restore to heal one of their Pokemon, the game will say, you used a full restore, even though you didn't use your full restore and your rival did instead, and should say your rival's name used the full restore. Now you may have noticed that as time went on, it seems like there were less and less mistakes in each Pokemon game, which is true to an extent, although Pokemon Sword and Shield have a few more mistakes than some of the last couple of Pokemon games did. Some of these mistakes have been patched out or were only available in the game for a short amount of time, which was the case with a Drillbur event. Back in April of 2020, some event Drillbur raids on Shield version would come with a Drillbur that knows Hydro Pump. This was later fixed in that same event since Drillbur shouldn't have Hydro Pump and was only active for a couple hours. There's another oversight in Sword and Shield with the move Trick Room, although similar oversights existed in previous games as well. Basically, if a Pokemon in your team had an effective speed set of over 1809, which can be achieved by having a naturally fast Pokemon boost its speed with an attack like Agility, it will just ignore the Trick Room and attack first anyway because of an overflow oversight with the speed value and how it's calculated under Trick Room. I could go on a bit more with Pokemon Sword and Shield like I can with Red and Blue or Emerald version, but let's just move on to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl for now. Some people out there might say that these games' existence alone are a mistake, although much like with Pokemon Sword and Shield, a lot of the mistakes were patched out, like this glitch sticker you can get in the Jubilife TV station. This person would give you a random sticker for your ball capsules, and there was a small chance you could get a glitched unnamed capsule, resulting in the text just saying, "You received 1." There was also this funny glitch where you could battle the 7th gym leader, whose name I'm forgetting, without actually doing the gym puzzle, due to a glitch that lets you slide up this ice ledge diagonally. It was a pretty cool trick for speedruns, and a result of the game allowing you to move diagonally, which you couldn't do in the original Diamond and Pearl games. This next one can also happen in Pokemon Sword and Shield, but if you name a Pokemon Egg with a capital E then 2 lowercase g's, and deposit in the PC, then interact with the Pokemon named Egg, the game will think it's an actual egg and ask you what you want to do with the egg, where if you nickname your Pokemon anything else or just don't nickname it at all, it will cut out the word the and just use the Pokemon's name, since asking what you want to do with the Psyduck just doesn't make a lot of sense now. Pokemon Legends Arceus, on the other hand, didn't have PCs because it takes place before they were ever invented, but it does have a glitch where sometimes in battle, it will display all of your moves as being normal type moves, even though they aren't actually normal type moves. There was also a glitch that is now patched, but I thought was pretty funny, but in version 1.0 of Legends Arceus, if a wild Cherrim changes forms, it just wouldn't be possible to catch it. Dragon-type Pokemon are among one of the most popular Pokemon types, and the fact that all but 2 pseudo-legendary Pokemon are Dragon-type probably has something to do with that. Of these pseudo-legendary Dragon types, Garchomp is the only one to not have a gender difference between both of its forms, and Goodra is the only one that isn't a dual-type Pokemon, although of course Hisuian Goodra is part Steel-type and makes up the only regional form for a pseudo-legendary Pokemon. As for regular Dragon-type Pokemon, Dragon types have been paired with every other type in the game with the exception of Bug-type. We still don't have a single Bug and Dragon type Pokemon, although there have been some good potential candidates in the past like Yanmega or Flygon. We did get kind of close to having a Mega Flygon in Generation 6, which could have been part Bug type. However, one other interesting thing about Generation 6 is that it was the only generation to not introduce any new Dragon-type moves, which is unusual for a generation to just not have moves of a certain type. There's also only 2 non-damaging Dragon-type moves in the game in Dragon Dance, which increases your attack and speed, and Clangoria's Soul, which is Kommo-o's signature move, so most Dragon-type Pokemon only have access to 1 non-damaging Dragon-type move. There are, however, 29 Dragon-type moves, making up only about 3% of the total Pokemon moves, making Dragon moves the least common type of moves out there. It is a shame because Dragon type moves are all pretty cool, and by that I mean in Generation 3, all of the Dragon type moves used in Pokemon contests were categorized as cool moves. Luckily by Generation 3, there was a few Dragon moves to choose from, as back in Generation 1, the only Dragon type move that did any damage in the game was Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage is a move that always does 40 damage no matter what, meaning it wouldn't give the user a same stat attack bonus and also would never do super effective damage. On top of having only the 1 offensive Dragon move, the only Dragon type Pokemon in Generation 1 was the Dragonite evolutionary line, which is one reason why making Lance a Dragon type expert in Generation 1 is weird, but then in Generation 2 they again only added 1 new Dragon type Pokemon in Kingdra, introduced another signature Dragon type trainer in Claire, who is the 8th gym leader, who who also only has one Dragon-type Pokemon on her team in Kingdra. And then they also kept Lance as the champion, but didn't give him a Kingdra on his team, and instead just gave him 3 Dragonites and called him the Dragon Expert. Kingdra does evolve from Seadra, a Generation 1 Pokemon, which then evolves from Horsea, while Horsea and Seadra are also technically considered Dragon-type Pokemon, as their Pokemon category is the Dragon Pokemon, which would mean that these 2 Pokemon are the only non-Dragon-type Pokemon to be Dragon Pokemon. At least Dragon-type experts in future games would feature teams that would actually have Dragon-type Pokemon, like Ryuki's team in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. A trainer that people tend to forget about, but he does have a really cool outfit on. They also didn't introduce a Dragon-type specialist in Generation 4, which was the only time they've ever done that, as although Cynthia has a Dragon-type Pokemon on her team in Garchomp, which is also her ace Pokemon, she is not considered to be a Dragon-type expert. Every single Dragon-type expert appears later on in the game too, with many of them being Elite Four members or just one of the last 2 gym leaders. This makes sense since Dragon-type Pokemon usually aren't available until pretty late on in the game, or in the case for Pokemon like Dragonair, they don't evolve until a very high level. Some non-Dragon-type trainers even have some pretty powerful Dragon types, like how in the Pokemon World Tournament in Pokemon Black and White 2, Fantina could have a Giratina on her team. It is part Ghost type, which makes sense because she is a Ghost type trainer after all. However, Fantina actually uses Origin Form Giratina here, even though it isn't holding the Greasiosaur, which is needed to make Giratina turn into its Origin form. It's holding a Ghost Gem instead, and on top of that, you can also battle Winona here, who has a Rayquaza. Something about these gym leaders having the 3rd legendary Pokemon in their respective regions is just really cool. Also in Generation 5, you can catch a Dino. Unfortunately, you can't get one until the Victory Road, but its final form, Hydreigon, evolves level 64, which is the latest level that any Pokemon evolves in the game. When it comes to purity, there are only 13 pure Dragon-type Pokemon in the game, with the only fully evolved full Dragon types coming from Generations 5 and Generation 6. For Dragon-type Pokemon as a whole, there are 70 total Dragon types, making up 6.9% of total Pokemon, tying it with Fairy, coincidentally, as the 2nd least common Pokemon type, with Galar introducing the most amount of Dragon types in a region, with 11 new Dragon-type Pokemon in Sword and Shield. While Dragon-type Pokemon are often seen for their sheer offense, with powerhouses like Roaring Moon, Dialga, or Rayquaza, Dragon-type Pokemon actually have the highest HP stat on average, along with the highest special attack stat on average. They also have the most unique held items that use Dragon-type moves directly, which is something I never really thought about, but that does include items like the Dragon Gem, which aren't around anymore, and items that only work for specific Dragon-type Pokemon like the Soul Dew does for Latios and Latias.
Trust me, this guy knows racing. Yeah, I like to make it look easy. Hey, it's Chick!
Oh shit! Chick motherfucking Chicks. That's crazy. Chick and his crew will do whatever it takes to win. Oh shit.
Check it out. Well, you know, I just figured you might want to get acquainted with the view.
Ah, what a shit talker.
You know, because you're going to be spending a lot of time behind me. In the race. We're going to be in the race and I'll be ahead of you and you can guide me. In the race!